Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark. And in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Christopher Ray Patton. So we have talked about DMX here on the show before, kids. We're going to do it again very soon. And without wasting your time and giving you the whole spiel, we went through a lot of technical difficulties today in an attempt to record an episode about DMX's second album. So expect that episode very soon. But before then, we thought we'd take a little bit of time here today to talk about the layered character, the layered persona, the layered personality that was DMX. And if you're a fan of that guy, you miss him terribly. You wish he were still with us because I think he still had some good work to produce. Who knows what he would have done or if he even had any interest in doing anything after the fact, because the legacy he left behind is huge. It's monstrous. And for an artist of any level, not just rap, of any level, the guy left behind something massive that I don't believe will ever be duplicated. But we're going to get into it here today. May just be a quick hit and we're out, but there's a lot of things that we kind of want to talk about. So we thought we'd hit you with it. But before we hit it, let's begin with this. DMX wasn't just a rapper. He was a contradiction you could hear. In one breath, he was raw, he was aggressive, and he was about street survival. And the next, he was vulnerable. He had pain, he prayed, and he laid bare everything he had in his soul. His music didn't try to clean that up or make it easier to digest. It leaned into it hard, into the chaos of it all. And that's what made him so compelling, and at times so hard to fully understand. And today, as we said, we're going to talk about him. We're going to dig a little bit into the complexity of DMX as a person, as an artist, the voice, the demons, the faith, the fame, and how all of it collided to create one of the most unforgettable figures hip-hop has ever seen. And that is your lowdown here today as we talk about DMX. So, Chris, off mic, I said the word complex, and you challenged that. Tell me why you don't think DMX was complex.
First off, you said a bunch of words that rhyme. So the snakes, the rats, the cats, the dog. How you gonna see me when I'm living in the fog, in the fog, in the fog?
You know how I roll. Thank you.
DMX, complexities of DMX is kind of more like fighting against the system, about being abused as a child. Someone that I implore everyone listening to this is DMX fan to read that biography that was released of DMX. It's great. Him talking about specifically him as a child, like him being like 6 or 7 and talking about like, I didn't mind the rats, but I hated the bugs because the bugs bit me. It made me itch kind of stuff. And that gives you the mindset of DMX. Complex is what I would say about DMX. I think a lot of it is gesturing. Being the macho, the ultimate machismo, as I was like, DMX is like what, 5'8", 5'9". But he raps like someone that looks like Andre the Giant. So some of it is that a little bit. DMX in general is a weird topic to kind of tap into because you have drug problems, you have tragic backstory of his bringing up. And I think this is also what makes his music great and why so many people connected to it. It's why, you had 400 people roll out for his funeral and shut down an entire city in New York when he died. It's because people relate to that stuff because that stuff is raw. It's real. A lot of rappers are real. I'm not saying they aren't. But during this time period, it's all about flash and bling. We're talking about like Ferrari and Jaguar switching forward lane, like same time period of DMX, right? And DMX is out here being like, I'm slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up, like bringing you forward, like giving you like, look, I'm not a good person. He tells you straight up through every one of his songs, I am not a good person, but I'm trying to be. Which is the story of DMX. It's like, I'm trying to get better, Lord, it is you that lifts me up every day, kind of stuff. The preaching, all that stuff is true to him as someone that you could see in interviews, etc. later in his career. I don't know. I don't know what I would like. What else is to say about DMX just as a whole, I guess.
I think people bump into that, but I think what they're bumping into is the fact that he's real and he didn't hide anything. He could have hidden a lot of that. He could have not said anything about his upbringing. He could have, left all that at home. But the fact is that that's when you are who you are, you're going to put that into your work as an artist. That's what he did. That's what, the best artists do is they put everything of themselves into their work, and then it comes out as whatever it comes out as, which is I think that what happens with him. I mean, what is it about him, because we know his success was massive. His first 5 albums debuted at number 1, which we'll get into that when we review the second album, maybe a lot deeper. But what is it about him that you think people connect to? Is it that realness? Is it the fact that when they hear him, they don't hear overproduced, they don't hear an act, they hear a man who's raw, as you said?
It's I think a lot of it ties into the lyrical content, people being able to draw something from that, right? But also the uniqueness of his voice. And he doesn't get enough love for what he would do in tracks. So he would do like, 8 bars in 4/4, but then he would get like really staccato, and go really, really fast through like what like the next bars. It's kind of hard to explain without an example. I had examples on the show that the show that we should not talk about until it comes out, I guess. Yeah, but like a lot of it is about not only it's the little things that DMX and the growl and the vocalization about this. If I had to compare like DMX to something from this like 10-year period of the 90s, right? Like when he was at his peak, let's say 99 Woodstock DMX's peak DMX.
Mhm.
I mean, like the only comparison is like Pantera, where you're completely different than everything else.
Ooh, I
And
like that.
DMX is the metal of rap.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
there's no one, and we talked about this earlier when we were trying to record that episode. There's no one, like no style of rap has ever hit what D does.
Mm.
Like there's people that do like horror rap, like ICP and stuff, but it comes off as like comical. But when
Yeah.
DMX talks about murdering you, you're like, yeah, that man might actually murder me. Kinda. It's like a John Carpenter film versus like one of these PG-13 ghost flicks kind of thing.
Mm.
I think he kind of bridges a gap with music before that was a huge thing. We're talking 99 when DMX was at his peak, right? Like the raspiness, the bark, the vocals, the way he attacks a track, it does have like a hard rock metal element to it. And this is the time period of like when Corn, Limp Bizkit, etc., would have been really Deftones would have been really big
Mhm.
with rap rock and stuff. And he's giving you that, but he's doing it with his voice,
Mm.
like, and then once you hear one DMX song, like stop, drop, and you're like, I hear the rest of the album. And then you start listening to the lyrics, you're like, this is a madman.
Yeah, right?
This man is unhinged. This is more metal than anything Limp Bizkit's ever put out, lyrically.
Oh, for sure. God.
So I think it's a little bit of that where it bridged a gap that Eminem would come in, right. Chronic comes out in what, to like late 90s,
Yeah.
right? And it kind of bridges the gap where people can really get into Eminem. But still, DMX 5 in a row, one of the most dominant runs of albums of all time.
Mhm.
Like it's crazy. Like 3 number ones, 2 back to back, 2 in the same year.
Mhm.
Like, which is insane. He's also the first artist to ever have his first 5 album debut at number 1. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like over the Beatles. Like, think about
It
all of
is.
music.
Everyone, Prince, Michael Jackson, you name it. Yeah.
It's I don't know. I guess you would have had this is one of those like what were you like in the 90s? It's just me and like my shitty room, my mattress on the floor, listening to DMX.
Right, yeah.
Uh yeah, I don't know, man. DMX is a tough pill, I guess, in retrospect, because he said a lot of offensive things, but at the same time he's talking about murdering 75 people. So it's how do you judge that? What do you put that as?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, if X were to come out today, he would be labeled, I don't know if I'd say X-rated, but I think he'd be labeled like problematic at the very least, because it's not what it used to be now. Like, and I don't want to get into hey, I don't think that's right. That's not what I'm one guy. I'm one opinion. I got thoughts, but like, I don't know. Artists should be able to express themselves. Do you think that that's what would be said about him if he were to come out today? Hey, look, he's an artist. Let him express himself. Or would it be, yeah, this is too far. It's too much.
If DMX came out today, he would be in a metal band, like, because his lyrics wouldn't work anywhere else.
Oh, that's a good.
It wouldn't be acceptable to be put into like like if you drop in the middle of like, okay, let's say he comes out right now, right? Think about music right now, like Kendrick Lamar, which Kendrick Lamar is great, right? But like on the opposite side of that would be DMX talking about murdering his mother and children.
Right, right.
What is the I mean, DMX worked in a very specific time period because rap was very heated. West Coast, East Coast battles, the shootings, all that I mean, that's a whole episode in itself. But the thing that made DMX like kind of separate is he didn't join like, he enjoyed Bad Boys or Cash Money. Like he kind of, or not Cash Money. What's the one that Suge Knight?
Death Row.
Death Row. Like he chose to not do that, right? And go his own path, create his own thing with his own hood. And specifically, so many of those people were in his videos and stuff, like where it's kind of that, it's like the line that Nas has in Ether, where he's like, you came to my crib and I didn't even give you my number. Like that's how connected he was to the city, and like just being your own person. I don't know that we'll ever see another DM as far as hip hop.
I don't think
or
so.
Another Andre 3000. Like there's some people that are just very unique in the ways that they are, and that's like Kurt Cobain, for instance. If we're going to talk about rock with it, right? Like, just vocally, right? Like a lot of people can cover those songs, and these songs are so easy to play. It's like, yeah, but you didn't write it, you ain't got the voice for it,
right? Yeah, of course.
Like a lot of people tried to write things that sounded like DMX, but DMX is the only DMX.
He's it. And you know what's funny is like, say the word Tupac, and it is natural for your tone to go Tupac and Biggie and Tupac. It's kind of, they're joined at the hip for all time. Whether people like one guy or the other, it doesn't matter. They're joined at the hip. I love the Beatles. I'm a huge Beatles guy. You know that. But it's pretty natural to say Beatles and the Stones. It kind of rolls. What do you follow DMX with in a conversation? I've never followed anything after the name DMX in a conversation. Nothing fits. Nothing flows. There's a reason for that, right?
I mean, normally what I follow with is the best of all time.
Well, there you go.
What I follow it with, because I love DMX's stick. Yes, I love his boldness of being so metal and so hardcore about his lyrics, but then being able to give you something very soft and comfortable, like Slippin', like an emotional connection back to his childhood, or do the prayer works for DMX. It would never work for anyone else, because you just listen to 9 tracks of him slaughtering entire communities, and he's like, I know I'm a bad person. And that's kind of like the relation to DMX, to me, at least, Slippin' is one of those songs that I can barely talk about without getting teary eyed. Like it means that much to me. It's such a great track. Which we'll get more into when we do that full album, because it builds up to that song, because it's a lot of DMX murdering a lot of people, and then Slippin' happens.
Yeah.
It's kind of the dial back of who he is as a person. And it's I don't know, man. I do know that I wish I could have been in the room with this famous Jay-Z DMX rap battle.
That's interesting, man. Like you could argue Jay's another guy that you don't really follow him with it. Man, I want to make this a Jay show. I love Jay, but there's a lot of Epstein stuff that's coming out, and a lot of, all of that, Illuminati stuff, which I think is mostly garbage. At the same time, he's become one of the most untouchable celebrities, and on a different plane of existence with his wife. All due respect to what he accomplished.
Boink Studios YouTube is the home of Tom Clark's 6M podcast. Tom Clark's main event, Bear Mode, a podcast review of The Bear, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Subscribe to the channel for archives that date back to 2014, with new content being uploaded every week. And check out boinkstudios.com for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Bookmark the site today.
I'll be honest with you. I say all that to say this. DMX will never have that asterisk by his name that I think Jay has now. And I don't think it's because DMX is gone. I think DMX would never have had that asterisk by his name where it's like, yeah, we thought he was real, but maybe he wasn't so real because look what he is now. You know what I mean? It's such an odd dichotomy when you mention those two guys in the same breath.
Well, I mean, we've seen so many artists die,
Mm-hmm.
rap, rock, whatever, die. But how many shut down entire cities to do the Rough Riders anthem on the interstate?
It's true.
Like that's not a common thing. Like you could go back to Pac in Atlanta, he shut down the entire city here. But there's very few rappers. And then when you look at it, you're like, if you're looking at it from the big scope of things like Jay-Z's legacy, he lasted longer, right? Like Jay-Z's best stuff kind of happened towards the end of DMX's 5-album run.
That's a good call.
And he brought Rick Rubin in to make 99 Problems. And this is nothing against or Jay-Z. Like I love Jay-Z, so
Yeah.
I hope people aren't taking it that way. I just, keep in mind that Jay-Z was an opening act for DMX on tour.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I think it's really easily to forget about how big DMX was, and like 5 number ones in a row as a rapper. That's kind of insane. As a rapper that doesn't have other people on his tracks, really. You know what I mean? Like his bars are always his bars. It's not like now where like, oh, it's Drake featuring this, and this, or whatever. Like DMX did the whole songs by itself. It's a forgotten trait of rappers nowadays. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's there's just something about the emotional rawness, the cadence in his voice.
Yeah, yeah.
And his willingness to use his voice to sound kind of uncomfortable when he talks about certain things. So you get this very aggressive, like attack, and then he'll just, I'm very like, I wasn't sure I should do that. Kind of like it's there's something beautiful about DMX. I don't think that can ever be duplicated. And also I don't know that hip hop would be accepting of it. Like it would get grouped in with like ICP or something if you get too murdery or
too murdery.
Kind of a weird point in time.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's that dumb cliche about the planets have to line up in a certain order and everything has to be right. Like referencing the Beatles again. Like were it not for the tragedies that rock and roll had, and the Beatles came along when everything had went to matinee idol pop stars, they came along at the absolute perfect time. You could always make the case that DMX came along at the absolute perfect time. Things were lined up for him to make the splash that he did because you had, like you said, rap songs with 4 different people on it. And you're like, why are there 4 people in this song? And like the glam videos and the just all of the pop that rap became to a certain degree, like MTV pop influenced rap, and like then you had X, who was just, when I say he was out of the gutter, that's only meant to talk about his sound because that's what it was. It just felt, man, guys in prison listen to this. You know what I mean? It just sounds like this dude is raging. He's like you said, he's real. That's the best word I can think of to describe this guy, is that there was nothing fake. There was nothing pretentious. He didn't put on the mantle of DMX and become that person. Of course, I say all these things having never met the man. So maybe off mic, he was as soft-spoken as they come. I don't know. But it feels like it was just him with the volume turned up as a good pro wrestler would be when he's on the mic. Like he's just amplifying who he already is,
I could see that. Yeah. I mean, I would say as far as DMX's legacy, and I'll keep it pretty simple on this. I think he made people feel something real, and real keeps coming up, even when it's uncomfortable, right? Like something that you don't want to think about or talk about. I feel like he did that. He wasn't the most technical or polished rapper of this time period, but at his peak, I would say he's the most felt. Like I feel like they're slipping on. There's a lot of boys in the club about to be crying. I'm about to cry right now. I'm thinking about it. That's
right.
That's the difference. What in some of that stuff is unexplained, right? Like it's the voice, it's the sound, it's the content, it's the time period that you were growing up. It's some of that stuff is untouchable. But when you look at like when they did his funeral procession, that's felt, like when people shut down entire interstates for you, that's felt. I don't know that's going to happen for Jay. Like Jay-Z during this time period, people forget that Jay-Z got better as the years got longer. His raps became more serious because during this time period, this would have been the Ferrari and Jaguars, which like Jermaine Dupri opening for DMX. And DMX had other good songs, I know, but he was opening. He was the opening act.
Yeah, and that's you could look at other examples through hip hop too. Like Dr. Dre wasn't always hardcore NWA. He was a flashy, trying to get his name out there, MC and smiling, and you're like, wait a minute, this is the same guy, But X didn't have that. Not that I know of. There's not some weird random video of him smiling and being nice, and then suddenly he becomes what he is. He was always this. No, I get what you're saying, man. There wasn't a natural evolution. He just was what he was. There was that weird, I call it weird because it was kind of random, that thing he did with Snoop. I don't know how long it was before he passed, where they're playing videos and they're both getting up dancing and stuff. And it felt like he was done. He didn't really have anything else he wanted to do. I don't know that because they released a posthumous album after the fact. And if you've heard it, it's tough because he's not on it. You know what I mean? He's barely on it, which is, you don't get a DMX album for other people. You get it for him. But I don't know if he was done or not. You have any insight as to what you think maybe could have happened or what you would like to have happened with him? Maybe a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction? I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I think he should have been inducted. If we're inducting TLC, I would think that DMX should be inducted on quality of work alone. You're talking about 5 #1 albums.
Yeah.
5. No one else has done that. 2 in the same year. So if you're going to start inducting people into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame from hip hop aspects based on their credentials, I would say DMX would have been probably the first one, right? Outside of Pac and Biggie, it'd be oh, DMX is the next guy. So it's actually more crazy that he didn't get inducted when they were doing this stuff before he died, because they had already kind of started down that road. And also he's more rock and roll than Pac and Biggie, honestly.
He is.
But it's I don't know. DMX is always going to have a cloud over it for the kind of lyrical he creates.
Sure. I think he gets in. I don't think he doesn't get in. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'd be very upset if he doesn't get in. He deserves it, I think.
I mean, Phil Collins isn't in Genesis, and Phil Collins is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So Phil Collins had 10 hits in the 80s. I'm not a Phil Collins fan. I'm just
I could tell.
What is the what is the criteria of getting, because if it's just having hits, Phil Collins probably should be in there.
It's popularity contest. It is. I've talked about this before on the you talked about on the Patton Report too, actually.
Yeah. Molly Crew not in there. Molly Crew's not in there.
Yeah.
Come on. So yeah, DMX would be the guy that they would definitely, from the rap game, the guy that they would definitely ignore as long as possible. So it's kind of, even though Let Me Fly is better than 90% of all rap songs ever released.
The pop and circumstance that they've turned that hall into, it's a yearly event. They fill up the place. There's acts that play live. They put in many artists because they only do it once a year. Dude, there's part of me that says, why couldn't we just do this every 6 months? And does it have to be we had to sell an arena, we had to black tie, we had to put on a great band? I don't know. Is it more important to do the hoopla, or is it more important to get artists in there before they pass? I don't know which. You know what I mean? Let's do it.
Well, I mean, money wise, it's more important to do the hoopla.
Well, there you go. That's the answer then, right?
Yeah, that it's kind of a crazy that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in general. Talking about this past year, Andre and Big Boy get inducted as Outcast. Andre doesn't perform.
Yeah,
he isn't.
Right.
He didn't even show. He could have even done a flute solo or something. He didn't do anything.
No,
and that's this in theory, it's all of your critics and other musicians are judging you, and they put you in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's should be a huge moment for you where you would want to play, like to say, this is how I got. You didn't get there on flute, brother. You're not going to get there on
No,
flute.
no.
That was just so weird. And it's like, but there are the politics about it. Like, so Motley Crue has been one that's been outcasted forever because Tommy Lee sex tape, right? And lead singer did kill a guy, drunk driving killed a guy. So there's some negative connotations to that, but it's like, what was a bigger band from like, I don't know, 83 to 87 other than Motley? Like, it's got to be the biggest band. They have 2 number 1 albums. So what is the criteria is kind of what I'm getting at of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What does that mean? And DMX meets all of it and puts on a great live show, by the way. I am so blessed that I got to see him before he died. It's not that I was expecting DMX to die or whatever, but I went with my friend, Wes. Shout out to Wes. It was at the Tabernacle in Atlanta, Georgia. And before we even went inside, there was this giant tour bus that just had the DMX like logo on it, and I was like,
that's cool.
So hyped, and it was so fun. Being the only white man there.
Wow.
Also, my shout out to my friend Wes. He got really drunk and then passed out on a couch for a while. But anyways, but the love and the community of that show, and it was definitely about the music and like the vibe of like when DMX would like, God, I'm trying to say something without like saying a negative term, because like DMX would spit something like that and the whole crowd would be like,
you threw around the N-word pretty freely. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. You're talking about like 40, 50-year-old people, right? With me in the middle of this crowd. And this would have been like before he died. So like 2016, 2017. I could look up the exact date of the Tabernacle show probably. But the love there, like that I felt like that people were super nice to me and they're like, oh, I'm so glad you're here. And I'll like, it's wild that you know all the lyrics to these songs. But DMX, he did the prayers between his sets. So he did his main set, like his first 10 songs, he did prayer, and then he did his next 4 songs, did a prayer, and then he did his like last encore, and he did another prayer at the very end. And it's like it's kind of cool, like the way that he presents himself. And he came out with the black wife beater, just ready to go immediately.
Right.
I don't know, man. Like I saw Outkast live, so it's kind of hard to. DMX was not Outkast live because that's kind of a bucket list kind of thing.
Oh,
DMX
sure.
was a bucket list thing as well. But I've seen a lot of hip hop artists live. DMX definitely like second on that list. 2 Chainz surprisingly really high up on that list. That's a really fun guy to go see live for those out there listening.
Yeah. We started off talking about how layered he is and textured. And, if you want to use the word, I use the word complicated, but it's never meant to be negative. It's just meant to be, trying to understand him. Kids, at the end of the day, maybe the point is not to understand him. Maybe the point is just to understand that he was a human like the rest of us. And he put his negative points in his music, and he could have hid them. As I said, he could have hidden behind the gold and the chains and the cars and the women. And he could have, made out like he was something that he wasn't and never talked about his shortcomings. But buddy, he put all that stuff into his music when a lot of other people, especially guys who don't like to talk about where they screw up and how they make mistakes and how they have bad errors in judgment and do things they shouldn't do and have thoughts they shouldn't have, he was that guy to put it out there for you. And it's so funny because I was with my mom and my stepdad. I can't remember if my son was with us or not. This was going back a while, but X was playing very turned down low because I know they're not really into that kind of stuff. And my stepdad had made the comment about, he didn't really like all that language and stuff. Then I put it on Lord Give Me a Sign. And my Southern mom, who church from the beginning to end, loves that song. And I'm like, that just goes to show you that he could touch a lot of people, whether he knew it or not. Hopefully he did. But like it just by having those different textures and layers to his personality, I think served him well. So in the end, maybe it's not a negative. Maybe it's that he built a much more robust fan base than maybe other people have built over the years. Maybe that's the answer, man.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It's the same thing. Like my grandma would be like, "What are you listening to?" She'd come in, DMX prayer,
Yeah,
and then the
right.
next song would be like Omen, or something. Yeah, it is when I think he connects with a lot of people. I think he made people feel something real
Hmm.
during that time period, which was very glam rap, glam rock. And he made people feel that even when it was very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Like he doesn't shy away from talking about the things that he had went through or has gone through or is going through. And that's what's so special, like about DMX is in being so introspective, like looking within oneself and pointing out your own flaws to talk about. That's not very common in rap to
Mm.
point out your own stuff. This is why I am the way I am kind of stuff is not a heavily featured thing in rap. It's very machismo, which DMX is like the king of machismo of being like, I'm gonna kill your wife right in front of you kind of thing. But there's the other parts of DMX, the softness that comes in where you have an emotional attachment. It's someone that has a lot of anger, right? And so much of it is anger and anger and anger, and they finally break down, they tell you what's really going on. And I think you can relate that to any friend you've ever had, a wife or a child. You're eventually going to get that opening moment where they're mad, or they're hissy fitting, and then you get that moment of clarity and emotion. I think DMX does that better than any rapper ever. I don't know, maybe Nas would be the exception to that rule, but DMX is easily, to me at least, and hear it out, DMX is the best rapper from New York that's ever existed.
Ooh, that's big.
Yeah. With maybe the exception of Nas, but like as far as legacy, the music he turned out, the quality of all of those out, you can listen to all of those albums all the way through.
Mm.
Right? You don't have to like, I'm gonna skip around this track. That's a big part of being that great. Is like I don't have to skip around a DMX track. I know it's gonna be good.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have to think about it. It had five number ones, Tom.
Yeah.
Like the world didn't have to think about it. This man was comfortable with 90,000 white people yelling the N-word back at him while wearing red overalls at Woodstock 99.
Yes,
This man was built different.
he was.
Like
Yeah.
it's he's an incredible figure. We lost such a great soul with DMX, and even his interviews and stuff. I implore everyone listening to this to listen to him talk about Puff Daddy and how he didn't sign a contract, which I sent to you recently, Tom.
Yes.
That's pretty great of why he didn't sign that contract, etc. If you're on the, if you don't like Diddy and stuff, you'll enjoy the DMX. Hey, I don't know. Seem kind of soft to me.
Well, he ends up being right, doesn't he? Like, yep.
Little light in the loafers.
Well, look, kids, at the end of the day, to me, what this comes down to is I don't think you can be of the same mindset of, if the critics, I don't care if they say I'm going to listen to what I want to listen to. I don't think you can be that person and also discount this guy because, again, all 5 of his first albums debuted at number 1. That's the fans. That's the fans saying, I have to own this album. I have to hear these songs. It's not critics. That's fans saying that. So, like, if you're going to tell me critics don't matter, I do it. All right, fine. Then don't dismiss DMX as having a relevant voice because that number of people, I'm not saying they can't be wrong. People can be wrong all the time. But that number of people saw something and appreciated something and loved something enough to make this guy as big as he was. I don't think anyone could ever sleep on DMX. You can not like him, but to not give him props for that is unimaginable to me. And I don't know how many DMX haters are lurking around in the shadows, but you people are troubled. Like, there's no sense to hate on the guy. I mean, he absolutely accomplished things no other rapper will probably ever accomplish. And like we said, he's real for sure. Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark 6M Podcast sent you. I mean, I want to see him get to the hall, Chris. I'd like to see a DMX movie. Look, I know how we feel about biopics. When they're done well, they're great. When they're not done well, they're terrible. I mean, I think I would love to see a DMX biopic if the family were involved, if the right people were involved behind the scenes. Don't know if we'll get that, but I guess in my head, I'm thinking, I want this guy celebrated more than he is right now. How would you feel about that?
As far as a biopic goes, I would be completely down with it, as you get the exploration of him as a child, which I think is very entertaining. Once again, for those out there listening that doesn't know his backstory, read that biography, listen to it. It's on Audible. It's crazy. It's a crazy scene. His dad was an artist who kind of would show up randomly, and then he lived in a house where you got to worry about the rats and the roaches. And the way that he depicts all that and talks about it is brilliant in that book. So if you could do that in a movie, explain the becoming of DMX, would be great. Also, the revisit to the famous freestyle between him and Jay-Z, which people can't decide who won. I have a feeling on who won that battle. If I had to guess, if I had to take a wild but in any case, DMX is means so much to me. It meant so much to me. I was like 12, 13, the first time I heard Slippin', which we'll talk about more in a later episode. The feeling that you like the world's against you, but you're gonna fight against it. You're gonna fight back. You're not just gonna you're slipping because you're letting yourself go. Like you're messing up. You're doing your own stuff. But I need to get back on my feet, right? And fight these people, kind of thing. Is brilliant. Like DMX, all of this, the Grand Champion is a good example as well. Like so many things that needed to be said, he said, and we're looking back at it like, what 25 years later for Grand Champion, you know what I mean? Like we're looking back at it with this retrospective lens, but times were very different during that time period, and he was like kind of the only person that was calling out the label industry and bucking against the trend of what rap was at that time, because this is a time period of Cash Money Records and No Limit, etc. And then there was this real guy. Not talking about how much money he had. He didn't have to talk about it. He didn't care about that.
No, he didn't. No.
I don't know. DMX, like I said earlier, which is going to cause massive conflict. I think that he is the best New York rapper, and maybe like I said, not maybe underneath that, but those are my 1 and 2 for me personally. I think DMX is brilliant. I'm so happy that I got to see him live before he passed away, and it sucks that we've lost such a legend because of what could be. Right? Like, DMX could have one more album in the chamber that we didn't know about. The man released 5 in a row.
Yeah, right.
So, like his worst songs would be like a #1 hit today.
Yeah,
probably. That's the infinite part about X. And the obviously drugs and stealing cars and being actively wild. But that's DMX. Conflict. The conflict of himself. The Damien, as he calls it, right? Like the bad part of DMX, which he leans into and makes it work. And you don't ever think like, oh, this is a gimmick, because you're like, no, it kind of checks out. He seems like that kind of guy that might have a problem.
And if you think it's a gimmick, just keep listening, because I submit it's natural to feel that it's a put on. But when you keep listening, then you start getting in deeper and you're like, holy cow, I don't think this guy's making this stuff up. I think it's real. Like the sincerity in his voice is, he can mask that sincerity with that growl, I think, which the growl maybe removes him from some of that emotional impact. But also you could argue that it's reinforcing it. Like if he had a smooth voice, if he sounded like Snoop, I don't know if he would ever have the impact that it has. But the fact that it's like a hammer into your head every time he raps, like that delivery, I think is what served him well too. Like one of a kind, man. And kids, by the way, that episode that Phil and I did, Shout out Phil Lindsay. We did it shortly after X passed away. It's in the archives. Go check it out. But we've got this one today, and we're going to follow back up reviewing his second album coming up soon. But we just wanted to get this out of the way because we had a lot more thoughts than what maybe that review episode's going to have. So maybe we get back to that. It'll be, here's the tracks, kids, and here's what we think about them. Because, anytime you talk about a great artist, the show could go very long because you don't want to not do justice to the guy, which is absolutely the case here for sure. So, Chris, as we call it a day here, even though it's tough to get a last word on anybody this big, but at least for now, your last word on DMX.
Hey, listen to all my albums. They're all good. There's no, you will never catch an L listen to a DMX album. Put any one of them on at the gym, on your way to work, whatever. They're all going to be great. DMX is the most metal rap artist that's ever existed. I think he's untouchable. I don't think I can't, he's a unicorn. This is like Beatles level for me.
Yeah.
As far as like hip hop goes, like there's just some people that are untouchable of charisma, the way that they decided to pursue music, the songs that they wrote, etc. Like there's, even in the same category, like the closest thing I could think of would be like Kanye for being that different, like doing something that actually is different than everything else at the time period. DMX, he went against the grain, man. We're talking about 97, Life After Death. The album that we're going to be talking about with Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood came out in 98. So the juxtaposition from Biggie to what DMX was and how connected he was to his city and how I don't have to say more. Like, look at the funeral. Look at it. That shows the love for DMX, right? Like that's the thing that you get. A lot of people die every day, Tom. Big artists die. We lost Val Kilmer last year. They weren't shutting down city streets. You know what I mean? Like that's how important DMX. So any of these albums, put them on. Personally, like Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, really good. If you're a CKY fan from my time period, you might get to see Mike Valet fight 3 preppy dudes while they don't hear me this is running, which is good. I don't know. DMX is personal connection, man. I think that his music can relate to anyone. You're gonna listen to, if you've never listened to him and you're listening to this podcast for the first time, you're like, well, maybe I should check out DMX, and you sit down, give it a couple tracks, give it like 1 or 2 tracks. Don't just like listen to the hits, like sit down and listen to the albums, because they're a journey. It's a journey through who DMX is as a person. That's why you have the prayers. That's why you have these big crazy moments of DMX into like the softest, sweetest thing you've ever heard that makes you want to cry. Brilliant artist. Brilliant. The world will never be the same. Honestly, I don't think there will ever be another DMX.
No, it's impossible. And it's, I can't say it's impossible. As far as we know, it's impossible. And I don't even know if anyone got close, it still wouldn't be the same for sure. I mean, there's only ever going to be one Prince, and you could look at other funk guitarists, you could look at other funk singers, and you could put them all together and come up with a number 2, I guess. But I just don't. Prince is Prince. DMX is DMX. There's no two-way. Bowie is Bowie. I don't think there's any way you can quantify, here's better. Nonsense. You can argue who sold more records if you want to, but even then, X has got a lot of people beat already who haven't even picked up a mic yet. So, I don't think there's any conversation. Kids, we've got a lot more to say about X. Trust me when I tell you that. A lot more to go down the rabbit hole on this guy. A lot of several albums to talk about. And again, you're going to hear that Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. You'll get our thoughts on those tracks and everything that goes along with it. But we appreciate you taking the time. Check out the other DMX episode in the archives. Be sure to follow the show. Follow us on Boink Studios on the YouTube and on boinkstudios.com. And we'll be back with a lot more to come. Stay tuned for that. But for now, that is DMX. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at 6M Podcasts. We'll see you next time.